My name is Ron Blauk, and this is Not Complicated. Who is in charge? Are you doing things, or are they being done to you? How do you know? The answer is that you're in charge, and it could not possibly be any other way. If you're deciding you're not in charge, you're the one who's doing the deciding. There is no escape. As a 25-year meditator who's resisted the notion someone or something else is in charge for his entire life, long before the events described in the first 6 videos of this series gave me some perspective on what parts of me are doing what, I've come to realize that these questions are perhaps the only questions that matter in how we choose to live our lives. Every single personal and cultural debate in our world today centers on this specific issue, and nobody seems to be able to articulate it clearly, so I'm going to have a go. I'm of the view it's best to run with this rather than resist it. It's much more fun, it eliminates delusion, and it gives you immense relief to understand you really are making it up as you go along. That kind of thinking will get you kicked out of the camp of people who believe you must submit to something. The pain of having to be responsible for your own choices is too great because it triggers our extraordinary shame reflex when failure occurs. And it will. It's easier to follow, but it's better to lead once you understand what parts of you are leading. 97.2% of all modern meditation practices are engineered to facilitate precisely this delusion. It was bad when I began meditating 25 years ago, but it's endemic now. Any views to the contrary are treated like a Republican at Harvard, rejected as ignorant by people who don't know they've been blinded by their teachers. Rather than learning how to fix the parts of you that don't work the way you want them to work, they tell you to find a way to do nothing, to train nothing, that the highest attainment is to do nothing at all. Your task, framed by any of hundreds of different methodologies, is to effort into nothingness. Just sit. But who is the sitter? And how did she get there? It requires willful action 100% of the time. It requires an act of will to get to the cushion, and then repeated acts of will to stay there until your will breaks and you become nothing at all for a time, as if that's a worthy goal. You're using executive control to execute toward the fiction that you aren't doing it yourself. It's absolutely preposterous, and few see the problem. That's why I'm taking the time here. Pretending there's no executive inside of you is also great money-making sport for the people who want you to hold doing nothing as your highest value instead of fully expressing who you might be in a rich world of infinite options. And even better, if doing nothing is the goal, you're failing every time you do something, right? That creates a delicious catch-22 that binds you into permanent uncertainty and subservience to anyone who understands what's actually going on. Yes, that approaches paranoia levels, but it's not wrong if you're willing to look. I make no claims as to how many people are doing this kind of thing for destructive personal gain, but in my extensive experience with many of the leaders in the spiritual movements and practices people are drawn to today, I can state unequivocally that it is the knowing goal of many of them. It was a shock to see it, truly unexpected. It made my world a less happy place. Be careful who you practice with. Rejecting those many paths of self-immolation tends to aim you toward the camp of people who have little self-awareness about the parts of them that are doing the work. They know they're in charge and they live with high energy, but there's a kind of veil in which they don't track how it all fits together, often making them dull company. A table of insurance salesmen at the bar is infinitely better than a table full of Buddhists at the bar, but there's something the Buddhists have that you might wish our insurance guys would pick up on. What few people know, and I didn't for a long time, is there's an entire culture of people who have integrated both. I've met them on occasion. The way they preserve themselves is to stay away from people who are not like them, isolating and only hanging out with others who are the same, making them invisible to most of us. No, they are there. It's personally extraordinary to understand how it all fits together, but it's socially ostracizing, as those two divided camps who hold opposing views won't like you very much, and you may not fit into either of them any longer. The ones who are well integrated stay that way by staying away from those who are not, and until you become one, if you want to, you don't get to spend time with them either. It's a conundrum. Almost everyone in 21st century American culture is desperately working to get off the hook by finding an outside source to tell them what to do, when the only honest path requires the opposite. Hang yourself up on that hook for everyone to see, and then risk big and live large in the hopes of creating something great. Spirit guides, gods of all types, intuition, heart centering, Ouija boards, true selves, all of them are substitutes for you, and in the end, they all end up being you anyway. Executive control is a top-down function in which the ordered mind decides what it wants to do and then goes and does it. Obstacles usually arise, and it's executive control that maintains contact with the original goal when things look bleak. Like any unused muscle, executive control requires planned effort to reconstruct, or to construct if you've never known you were allowed to use it. But the rewards are great, and because it's all you all the time anyway, it remains the only delusion-free path a human can take. Pretending to seek guidance or release is still you doing something. It's unavoidable. So why not do what you want in the first place? After my twins were grown and I spent some time thinking about what it was I did with them as their father that might have worked, I had a moment of realization in which I saw the several key moments in their lives where they decided to do something against the rules, stepped out, and did it, and then faced the very real consequences of their actions afterward. I understood that as a father, that was my task, to set the framework where those moments of independence could arise. That the most human of human qualities is that need for self-expression, even in the face of legitimate rules that are blocking your way. My independent kids were my favorite kids. Those were the great moments. It was also true that if there were too many moments like that, the household would have self-destructed. It has to be both. Capacity to willingly play by the rules of the team, but also to know when it was time to step up and do what you needed to do for yourself, rules be damned. That introspection in the early 2010s forever changed my view of God or the universe or whatever runs this unusual operation we all live in. I'd always wondered what kind of supreme being wanted you on your knees in front of him groveling, and I finally understood that no supreme being worth the name wants anything other than for you to be the full expression of who you are. That's why he made you. It, is sitting around watching to see if you do something he didn't think of yet. And when I doubted myself, I realized it had made me, the person who was holding those beliefs. So, right or wrong, they were beliefs from God itself, and worth throwing into the mix in consideration on how to live a life worth living. That's your purpose. Live a life worth living. YOLO is a meme, but it's also a fact. And it requires executive control to be that person no matter where you aim. So do it. Be all you can be. Love others while you do it. God may like that kind of thing too, and I certainly do, but take charge, decide what's next, and implement. That's what you're here for.